Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome you, to share with us the joyous moment of our achievement in Juba. The main work was doing advocacy, media advocacy work, advocate for freedom of expression, and to build the capacity of journalists. We were running short trainings, 1 week, 2 weeks. And then it was thought that no, while this is very good for us, helps, we should do long-term training. In 2012, the inception came of having long-term training.
What we do here, you see it on the newspapers. The result, most of us have seen in the newspapers. Although these newspapers are small, but to our standard, as we're coming out of so many challenges, they have improved a lot because of the contributions of the trainees or graduates who passed through AMDISS, MDI between 2016 and today. As my colleague said, we have among the graduates today 14 female and 31 and 41 male. You have seen their names in the booklet, you've seen their performance, and you've seen their quotes, how grateful they are, particularly to the donors and partners who helped us come this far. It has been a very difficult journey from the beginning of, particularly this academic year. We had a lot of challenges, but we managed them because of your support, who are sitting behind me here. Thank you so much for helping us.
Yeah. And celebrating, of course, congratulating the graduates, congratulating MDI. When Moses talks about the challenges, indeed there have been challenges, internal and external, and both MDI and AMDISS have done tremendous work to meet those challenges, and it's as a result of their work that we're here today. It's great to see the women. There could be many more, but 15 is not a bad number. And they need to be particularly cherished because the challenges that the media sector face in this country are multiple, and women journalists are subject to additional challenges. And I would urge everyone, and particularly their male colleagues, to really look after their female colleagues, not in a paternal way or a chauvinistic kind of macho way, but be aware that the challenges that you face are multiplied when you are a female journalist in South Sudan.
Today, so it's good to see you again. Congratulations on you are entering a very noble profession, which is a cornerstone of democracy and incredibly important for civil society. As my colleague from Internews mentioned, it's also, journalism also plays an incredibly important service to the government, whether they realize that or not, that accurate, truthful information can help the government to course correct, to refine policies. In many ways, when we look at historically, most of you may not remember, or were probably not born when the Soviet Union collapsed, but that was a form of government which lacked truth-telling, that if you have a leadership that only hears what it wants to hear and what it thinks and people tell it what it wants to hear, it lacks a reality check. And so you're performing an incredibly important function for the government as well. Now, they may not always realize that. Speakers today have alluded to the dangers that you face, and every one of you needs to make an individual decision as to what the value is of what you're reporting and what the risks you may be taking. In the last week alone, we have seen reports of the commemoration events related to the second anniversary of an international journalist here in South Sudan, as well as the report of the release of a local journalist who had been detained for 39 days without charges. So you need to measure those risks, but do remember, AMDISS is not only here in a training role, that I would commend AMDISS for the advocacy role that they do play, and they are frequently active behind the scenes when journalists do run into issues with the authorities, and that's another, in addition to training, that's a very important role that they play. In the U.S. Embassy, we have a long commitment, or the U.S. government, the U.S. people, have a long commitment to the people of South Sudan. I think many of you know the history and the role that we have played back to the formation of this.
The young people, especially the females, are getting education and training. According to the late Kofi Annan, former Secretary General of the United Nations, he has said, and I quote, "There is no means for development more effective than the education of a girl. If we are to succeed in our efforts to build a healthier, peaceful, and equitable world, the classrooms of the world must be full of girls as well as boys. Every year of schooling completed by them will be a step to eradicating poverty and disease." End of the quote. Having had the opportunity to work in the education sector here and elsewhere, I want to stress that the development of education requires the doubling of our efforts by all stakeholders if we're going to have an everlasting impact on future generations, achieve sustainable development, and contribute to nation building. We can all agree with me that education transforms lives. And education transforms lives is at the heart of UNESCO's mission to bring peace, eradicate poverty, and drive sustainable development. For instance, today we have a group of trained journalists that will be joining the workforce, and we expect them to educate and inform the masses with materials and messages that are relevant for once on the community's social and economic growth, and also contribute to peace building. In addition, at UNESCO, we believe that education is a human right by quality. At the UN agency entrusted with the mandate to coordinate the Global Education 2030 Agenda through Sustainable Development Goal 4, call upon the government and other stakeholders to promote education in South Sudan, among which is the training of journalists to ensure that no one is left behind. In the past, we have partnered with the Media Development Institute and still look forward to strengthen our partnership as we all work towards achieving a common goal to empower the young generation through journalism education as well. Through the UNESCO Communication and Information sector, we had the privilege to work to support the establishment of the first production studio here at the Media Development Institute to facilitate acquisition of practical journalism skills for practicing journalists and student journalists. We believe that through the practical training at the studio, the students are prepared with the essential journalism skills as they move out to the real world or to practice journalism.
People's Day, and I'm delighted to be here today at what is a very important event. I think everybody here, no doubt, is aware that a free and professional media is the cornerstone of any kind of functioning democracy. And that's why the work of MDI, and indeed AMDISS, is so important. Now, MDI, as I understand it, I wasn't here, but as I understand it, was established in 2014. with the support of Norwegian People's Aid, as well as other institutional donors. I think it's fair to say that MPA is very, very proud to have that long-term association both with AMDISS and with MDI, as we consider both the offering real kind of value added in terms of a free press in this country. MPA is therefore kind of committed to supporting both AMDISS and MDI in the coming years because of that value added that they provide. And that we could not do that, of course, without the valuable contributions that we receive from our donors, not least from the Norwegian government. I think it's really encouraging to hear the numbers that have been trained in this graduation year. It will be obviously very nice in the future to see a bit of gender parity in terms of the number of male and the number of female graduates. But I understand there has been progress on that this year, and I hope to see further progress going forward in future sort of graduation ceremonies. I therefore just really wanted to thank both MDI and AMDISS for the invitation today. I sadly have other commitments, so I won't be able to remain for the entirety of the ceremony. But once again, I thank you all, and I wish the graduates in particular all the best in terms of their sort of professional lives and the career path that they've chosen. So thank you.
Excited. If some of you are not, then we should be. I'm very excited to welcome you today to AMDISS MDI for this occasion of the day. Victor Lugala is also here. Madam Rebecca Joshua, who is now with the government. Late Abolino, Mama Veronica Lucy, and some of us who are also here today. Without them having thought of what to do with the profession that is called journalism, we would not be sitting here today. So thank you very much. Let me also pass my sincere gratitude to the following development partners. NCA, whose we are using their facility not only for AMDISS but also for the Media Development Institute. We would not be having a space to teach these students if they were not able to give us their facility. Indians for their financial support, NBA, US Embassy, USA, UNESCO, among others. They have put up their efforts to support us and make sure that this training goes on. From the time we started in 2015, we have not missed out any year without training. We have seen in Juba many institutions of higher learning closing down because of lack of resources. But from 2015 up to now, we have never closed this office. We have always been there training the students. So thank you very much to our partners. I just have 3 advices to the students. One is that the profession of journalism is where you cannot lie. And when we were meeting you, we also checked that we don't have liars among the students. Because we need people who can stand up and tell the truth. For the politicians, if they see red color, they will go back and say, no, don't mention it's red color. Let me first go and consult. They will go hold rallies and influence people to say the color is black, not red. That is how they influence people. But in journalism, we call red color. We don't give it any other color. This is where you will face difficulties, and that's why you have seen many journalists facing difficulties, because you have to tell the truth. You don't influence anybody to change the color. You actually have to tell them the exact color that you have. So when you go out, remain with the color that you see. The only thing you can do is to balance. If one person is saying red, the other one is saying blue, you bring them together. Let the other one say it's red color, let the other one say it's blue color. And now the people who are reading or listening to the radio can now judge which is the true color. This is how we balance. Also these days we face a lot of challenges because of the mix-up between professional years training these journalists. And just to remind you that we are a very small team. As I stand here, I left my office, the real office somewhere. This is my second office. And the same with my colleagues who are seated here. But the things we do, people can see the impact. I'm very proud of them because sometimes they don't sleep to do this work. And in particular, I would like to thank AMDISS Executive Director, MDI Principal, and our Secretary, Josephine Ashiro. She's been moving around, mobilizing people for this meeting and also the resources for the graduation. Thank you so much. It would be unfair if I don't mention the contribution made by the founding members of AMDISS MDI. We only have one person here today, but the rest are not there. Let me call out their name. Jacob Akol, doing their work. I have been uplifting some of my colleagues who in a day they come around 10, while I have been there at 8 a.m. in the morning. By 10, I have finished writing my 3 stories in the newspaper. Uncle Kerry is here, you can even tell her. Okay? By 10, I'm done with my news report. But my male colleagues, they are still in the field because maybe they branch somewhere to see some of their garden. But because I was focused, after finishing my stories, I helped them in writing their stories because they were new. This is what we should do. Go out and uplift each other. And for those who are getting married, please don't remain in your houses. Come back and do the work. There are many, I have 5 of the female journalists who were with me when I started journalism. They are no longer here today because their husband says they can no longer work. They are going to sit home and take care of their children. How can you have a degree in journalism and you sit home to do other work? That is not what we want. So parents who have their girls or women here, please don't allow them to sit home. Let them come and work. And for the media managers here, you be fair enough to take the female journalists because the more they sit home, the more they will be assigned to do other duties. With this, I would like to congratulate all of you. This is a good day in the history of AMDISS MDI. Thanks officers, all to be communication officers at UN and the government officers. We trained you to be journalists. And that means you have to attach yourself to the media houses. If you attach yourself to the media houses and you have problems, you are lucky because you graduate from MDI where AMDISS is there to advocate for your rights. So if anything happens to you, you can come back to us and we will be there to stand by your side. As I go further to almost conclude this, my last advice to you is that there is no profession that is dangerous. And if there are people who are still saying journalism is a dangerous career, those are the right people to be arrested actually. Because they are leaving their careers to be the noble careers and start calling journalism to be a dangerous one. It is not dangerous. I have been there for many years and I don't see any danger in journalism. Instead, what I see is creativity. What I see is a career where people sacrifice themselves for the sake of other people. A career where you tell people that you cannot do injustice to others, but you have to do justice to other people. A career where we have been calling day and night that if some people have failed to save South Sudan from war to peace, they should go home. This is how we are. And that is why journalism is a noble career more than other careers, because we cut across. Even if you have done nursing, you come and start training to be a journalist, you will be better because we will be sending you to the hospitals to cover what you have been trained on. Is there any other profession that does that? No. If you are a lawyer, you remain a lawyer for life. If you are a doctor, you remain a doctor for life. But in journalism, we accommodate other people. They do their trainings. When they change their mind that we want to be journalists, we bring them on and train them. This is what we do, and that's why it's a flexible career that everyone in the world appreciates. So the female journalist, you see, I'm very happy because AMDISS, for the first time, we have 3 members out of the 7 executive members. They are female. For the first time in our history. And last time they asked, are you going to fit in the shoes of those men? We said yes. Now you ask me, am I fitting in the shoes of my successors or not? I will tell you, I'm even fitting more than what they were. So if you go out there, female journalists, it was last week, 2 months ago, we organized a meeting and we had over 40 people.
I'll start with our partners who are here, recognize your presence, all your opposition, the chairperson of AMDISS and the leadership of the AMDISS, led by my friend Michael Nuku, the chief executive, the principal of MDI is also a close friend, the board of MDI is here, the graduates, and all the families who have come to witness this important day, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, the congratulations to our students, the graduates who have been under a serious training, and we have experienced some of them in SSBC when they come there for intensive training. And I don't know whether we have some here or they are still there. The main thing that I would have to say in this important occasion is that AMDISS really stand for the task, and by making MDI, producing the journalists, the young journalists who are also taking over from the older journalists. And by saying that, I'm not saying those of Victor or Anikeri are not really functioning. They are very, very strong and they can still do the work. My point to the graduate is that I will concur with the mayor that journalism is not a bad, and it's not a dangerous, and it's not a difficult, and it's not a poor profession. So very important and very strong and a very profitable also profession. What makes it to be looked at it from the ethics, and when we deviate from the rule of the media, that's when it becomes dangerous. It depends with the democratic system that being implemented in that country. It depends with the system of the governance. And sometimes there are journalists who wanted to make news to be news themselves rather than looking for news. That's where it becomes dangerous. Some of us have been there, and we are still there, and I'm sure we'll be there. So don't let yourself be discouraged by coming to the field of the media and do your work. And the only thing that I would encourage you is that be part of this country and be part of the development of this country by building peace and prosperity of your nation. At times, as journalists, you could be part of your own country destruction, and you can be part of your own country solution. So it depends on how you take your field and your profession. As we are graduating you today, we expect much of the changes in our country through our media houses, wherever you will work. And you need to be an ambassador of AMDISS and the MDI wherever you go. And that's what will make other students to come back to MDI and AMDISS. By saying those few words, I wanted to say also, journalism in our country has been under a critical criticism, either based on us who are practicing it or the perception of those we are working with. And by changing this is what our people, well-trained journalists, to practice the better and professional journalism. I want to bring to your attention that our country today is still searching for peace. And by searching for peace is a responsibility of the media and journalists to see into it that this peace that the country is searching has been found. It depends on how we report the stories, it depends on how we cover the issues, it depends on how we work out what we want to be this country. At times, as journalists, we are taken by our ethnicity. We are taken also by our political affiliations. We are taken sometimes by our personal support. And that's what brings our journalism into question. So if we really stand as journalists, as we have been advocating for, I think we will be well respected. I know issues to do with security and journalists being arrested. For some few months now, since the media authority was given the responsibility, at least it has come down, and we must recognize that. The bigger problem with us in South Sudan and in Africa is that when somebody died, like when our late Alfred Taban died, and also when our late Kizito died, that's when we appreciate them so much. But I want to say in this particular function as journalists and media, it is high time also to give a credit so that we will be friends to the system and to the people we are working with. But if we continue isolating ourselves as journalists and media houses, and we look at the negative angle only, it will give the other side also look at our negative angle. So let us do this. Let's acknowledge when there is improvement, so that the other side also build on that improvement and we have a better relations. What I'm trying to say is that since the media authority took over, at least the issues of arrest has come down, unless in an isolated cases. And that's what I would like to put onto you also as journalists who are going to the field. I know, and I'm really sorry. This is our own government. The whole world is being led by government. The countries are being led by government. And I want to assure you there is no better government in the world. It depends on the perception of the people who own that country. So if you don't believe into yourself, it will mean you don't even believe into your system. And when you don't believe into your system, you don't believe even in your own country. And then you are nowhere. How bad is your mother and your father? You still identify yourself with them. There is nowhere you can go and borrow your mother and a father from the neighbor because they are good. Why don't you take this simple message for me as I'm saying? Please let us accept one another as South Sudanese. My last word. As South Sudan Broadcasting Corporation, we are still going to work together with AMDISS and MDI. in areas of internships, in areas of bringing people to be trained here, in areas of employment itself. So people run away nowadays from the government because if you come to the government, the payment that the CRN is paying, the internews is paying, the iRadio is paying, the Mirai is paying, and so on, is not how the SSBC is paying. So you definitely run away because the money is too small. That's another challenge that we have. But of course we are there to give those who are graduating here a job, depend on our process and procedures of employment. So we are committed to our partnership together and will work together with MDI. With these few remarks, I thank you very much for inviting me, and I thank you very much also for giving me a chance to speak on behalf of the government, though it will put me into the question on what I'm saying with you, but I still remain the James Wagog of the media that used to be. And I haven't changed, and I would want us together to work at the media